Hey, I'm Caleb with Woodshop, and welcome to the 5th edition of my Wood Species Basic series. We've already looked at some pretty common woods that are available to just about anywhere that is easily accessible to every beginner. So now I think it's time that we take our steps into some finer woods, and today we're going to be checking out cherry. So the purpose of this Wood Species Basic series is aimed at anybody who has just started woodworking or wants to get into woodworking, and just help you navigate your way around these different wood species and give you a little bit of knowledge so you know what to expect with them. They won't go into a lot of real complicated woodworking jargon stuff. So we're looking at cherry. Cherry is a hardwood. It is technically a hardwood, and it's physically pretty hard. It's a really beautiful wood. Personally, cherry is my favorite wood to work with. So in the woodworking world, cherry is one of the kingpins. It is one of the most beloved woods by many woodworkers, and it shouldn't be too difficult for you to get a hold of either. What cherry is going to be used for commercially is going to be stuff for like cabinetry, fine furniture, flooring, veneer, just specialty wood items. I know me personally, I've seen quite a bit of cherry tables in like restaurants and stuff, so it's going to be used on a wide scale like that. And as far as its pricing and availability goes, that is where it might get a little bit different for you based on your locations. So where I'm at, in any big box stores, the only hardwoods that are sold is red oak and poplar. There's almost nowhere else where I could get hardwoods in my area unless it's a specialty hardwood store, which is where I have to go to get any cherry that I use for my projects. Some woodworkers that are based in California, I believe, they've filmed inside of their local Home Depots, and they've had woods like red oak, cherry, walnut, and maple available in big box stores, but I think probably for the most part those aren't going to be in big box stores. Maybe, unless it's just me. That's where it could get a little bit more complicated, because if you go to a hardwood store, you're going to be buying lumber by board footage, which could get really confusing and is pretty complicated. But for the most part, cherry should be a modest price for a hardwood. I think where I'm at, it's about $3 and some change for board foot. This board I bought, it was about an 8-foot board, and the one board cost me about $30. So it could be a bit pricey. For me personally, that's not bad, because most of the projects that I build are pretty small, and for the most part I could get multiple projects out of a single board. But if you're building something big, just some kind of furniture, or you're doing your own cabinetry or something, I could see how that price could eat your lunch for $30 a board. If you got to get several boards, that could get a little bit pricey. And if you don't know of any hardwood stores in your area, you could always research it. Just hop on Google, man. I imagine one thing you're probably wondering about is cherry's workability. Is it easy to work with, hard to work with? I'll let you know, because I've worked with a lot of cherry. So for the most part, to me, cherry seems pretty friendly to work with. It goes through table saws fine. It cuts on the bandsaw pretty easy. The one thing you really have to be wary of with cherry, especially, is it is notorious for burning really easily. It's something I've experienced quite a bit, and the best way to avoid that is making sure that you're using a brand new sharp blade. And the other thing you have to watch out for is, in some cases, cherry can be quite figured, and if you have really figured grain, then it could be kind of difficult to run through your saw. It sands easy. It's easy to get it to a nice glassy, smooth surface. Shouldn't have any difficulties in the sanding department, and it takes finish really well. So before we move on to what you should use to finish cherry, I'd like to give some of my own project suggestions for cherry. Disclaimer I put in every video, my project suggestions aren't the word of God. It's not what you have to use cherry for or anything. It's just what I think suits cherry best. So it's just my opinion, but maybe it'll help give you some ideas. So I think cherry is a fantastic wood to use for cutting boards. And it is a great wood to pair with other woods, like cherry and walnut. It's a fantastic combination. You'd either put cherry, walnut, and maple together for a perfect three-tone of dark to light. So a lot of people use it for like in-grain cutting boards. I think cherry is a great wood to use for furniture. Almost most of the furniture that I've made has been made out of cherry. I think it's good for kitchen utensils and just decorative items. Alright, so now for the good stuff. What do you want to finish cherry with? So I find that cherry finishes great with pretty much any finish you could think of. Personally, I really like to use spray lacquer and more of a semi-gloss. I know a lot of people don't care for glossy finishes because they think it looks a little bit plasticky and fake. I get that, but that's the finish I prefer to use. I almost always use lacquer on cherry. I personally don't care a whole lot for oil finishes on cherry because I think it looks great with a top clear coat, but a Danish oil or like a wipe-on poly would work really good too. It takes just about any finish well, and I think one thing you'll really enjoy with cherry is as soon as you apply a finish, the color and the grain just pops dramatically. One really cool thing about cherry is after you finish it and you have it in your house for a couple months, you'll notice a color change pretty drastically. It gets really dark. I made this pet food table a couple years ago. Here's a picture of how it looked when I first brought it home compared to how it looks now. That dramatic color change is one of my favorite things about cherry, and you'll notice I don't really have a good example in the shop right now, but this one has a little bit of sapwood in it. I personally go for all the boards I can find that has a lot of sapwood in it like that. I think it looks really great, especially if you could book match it too. There are some people out there that really don't like the sapwood and cherry. They prefer it to be, a uniform color. If you're somebody that doesn't like sapwood on cherry, then you could leave. Alright, so there you have it, a brief overview on cherry. It is a fantastic hardwood and I highly recommend that you get your hands on some if you haven't before. I don't think you'll be disappointed with any project you make from it. And it's a really beautiful and great wood to work with. So if you liked and enjoyed this video, stay tuned for more wood species basics. And be sure to subscribe to this channel too, because we don't just go over wood. We test woodworking hacks and we try woodworking experiments. So if that's something you'd be interested in, click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.